Hi, Michael Sankey here from Learning Futures at Griffith University. I'd just like to take you on a little journey about where learning, and particularly online learning, is taking us over the next few years, as I can potentially see at the moment. This illustration provides a brief snapshot of that, and I'm going to unpack this illustration for you over the next few minutes. What I'm going to look at is the role of the virtual learning environment, traditionally seen as being managed by the LMS, and also digital and social media and literacy fluencies. Increasingly, the LMS is becoming quite porous. That is, a number of providers are allowing a lot more other technologies to come in a seamless way into the learning management system. Some are resisting the challenge, others are embracing it very well. But increasingly, institutions are not just looking at the LMS to be the virtual learning environment. Increasingly, we're seeing other systems such as PebblePad, such as bigger lecture recording systems, such as Office 365 coming into the learning space and having equal prominence to the learning management system, which causes a university to think, okay, are we going to call our virtual learning, our LMS, the virtual learning environment, or are we actually going to expand that concept a bit more? And many of the vendors are starting to take up on that, as I said. And it's mostly possible through the greater use of LTI, or Learning Technology Interoperability, which enable third-party technologies to be seamlessly integrated into the LMS. And more, we're seeing that aligned with social media and the sharing of content. So students sharing content with students, staff, student, staff. It's becoming quite an opportunity for higher education to take advantage of this whole social media thing. Staff and students can't be left to fend for themselves though. So there's a point at which we as academics need to shepherd that type of activity. The student learning journey focus and the student-centered design, incredibly important as we move into a more consumer-oriented higher education system with the advent of many private providers coming into the market. We might think that this means it's all about students. Well, you'd be right. It is all about students. And it's about helping the students plot their learning journey and understanding the major touch points as they come into an institution. So it's enabling them and engaging them, for instance, in the first few weeks of activities, providing a little assessment activity for them by the end of week 3, so you can have a touch point with those students fairly early on in their studies to just check how they're going. It's about caring for them. It's about chunking the content. Instead of us just providing them a 3-hour lecture followed by a 3-hour tutor, we look at things like how we might flip our learning a little bit more. In some disciplines that's easier than others, but a well-developed and well-appropriated flipped approach can really make quite a bit of difference in the way students now understand and make sense of knowledge. Particularly important moving forward is the human voice. I mean, you're listening to me. The lecture capture example, which has been rife over the last probably 10 years, not quite 10 years, but probably 8 years, where students are asking to hear the lectures, so it gives them a bit more flexibility. We're probably seeing that come off the wave now and coming back down to the need to have that shorter, sharper chunks of information. I'll return to that in a minute. Of course, they still need to read. But it's not about reading just to regurgitate knowledge. It's actually reading to promote learning and to then be able to share that with others. So the social aspect of reading has become really important, and not only the social reality of that, but also the social reality of sharing through the social media constructs that we have, particularly through the use of the human voice. Video content, short, sharp. Just like this one's only going to be a few minutes long, that's how we need to approach to hit the main concepts, then get the students working through their online content. We don't have to screed it all out for them, but we can get them to get engaging with the content. And another important aspect is the whole notion of consistency within the online space. So the number one thing students are asking for in the surveys that they give us, we send out to them, and the responses they give us is a level of consistency within our higher education system. Students don't want to have to relearn a course every time they go into a new course. So they're doing 4 courses potentially in a semester. And if all those 4 courses are done in a completely different way in terms of the structure of the course, how does that make it easy? They have to relearn every time they go into a course. That's a frustration point that we just don't need to give our students. All we need to do is communicate a little bit more with each other. So the person down the passageway sitting behind that closed door, we can talk to them in the tea room, see what you're doing. Share your online environment so we can see what others are doing and we can learn from each other. There's also thought that there's some standards that could be applied by universities to sites. So at this point there is a number of standards out there. There's the ACODE standards for sites. There's the Quality Matters sites, which this university has some involvement with. There's the OLC Consortium Toolkit, etc. There's a number of different standards. TEQSA themselves are really interested to see this emerge over the next 18 months, and it's planned that by early next year there'll be a guidance note coming out from TEQSA in relation to how universities are ensuring there's some consistency provided in the online space. Particularly with the advent of more private providers, this has become really important that there is some equal treatment of the students who are studying in the online space. It's also important that we benchmark our practice with other institutions, and it's in the same principle as we talk to our colleagues in the lunchroom. We need to be talking to our colleagues and learning from each other across institutions. We're a member of a network of universities within Australia called the IRU, and that is a really important opportunity. It's generally 1 or 2 in each state, and we've got 8 states, territories, so we can share across those regimes without us having to worry too much about stealing our market, for example. So there's a safe place in which we can benchmark our practice with like institutions in other states. Virtual, augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, machine learning, it's all happening at the moment, and it's really an exciting space to be in. The university is moving into this space with 360 videos and augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. We're playing with HoloLens and Oculus Rifts and Google Glass, Google Cardboards, etc. It's a really exciting time. However, if the end user focus of this is low cost, then we can drive that fairly quickly. And we are seeing that the cost of this apparatus is coming down and down and down all the time. And so we'll also see, and we are starting to see, publishers, the textbook publishers moving into this space as well. And they'll start to set up environments that we can take advantage of that will augment their textbooks. Just same as they provided quizzes in the past and online sites and things like that, they'll start to provide the content in a virtual and augmented reality way as well. We're already starting to see this from Pearson's, and Cengage is starting to get into this space as well. We're also getting a lot smarter with analytics, and we need to get smarter still, particularly as it comes to artificial intelligence and machine learning and how we apply that to the student learning journey. And that typically has seen itself through adaptive learning softwares like Smart Sparrows, virtual avatars, chatbots, etc. Basically, we're leveraging off artificial intelligence algorithms to personalise the learning and to deliver content to students in a more step-meal way that they can actually take a journey through the content, kind of choose your own adventure type scenario. And that's going to be helped, of course, by the next generation learning management systems as they start to embrace this notion of particularly adaptive learning. And we're going to start seeing that a lot more coming through in the learning management systems. Of course, the fundamentals are still there. We still need to align our assessment to our learning outcomes and to meet our TEQSA standards, threshold standards and things like that. But we can do a lot more breaking this up into chunks and credentialing chunks of this bits of information. There's a number of universities really moving heavily into this space. Griffith we are moving into this space as we speak. I think of RMIT University is really kicking a number of goals with the micro-credentialed approach to learning. And as we embrace this, we're looking more and more how we align this with our professional learning profiles, our e-portfolios, our LinkedIns and things like that. That's all based on the individual student and staff having a professional learning profile that they can actually syndicate out and use as the basis of their knowledge and public profile. There are a number of credentialing engines and backpacks that we need to look at that can be aligned with the LMS. Some cases, and I think partly we're going to see the LMS move into this space a bit more, but a number of credentialing engines we've been looking at, and I think we've may have made a decision, but I can't say what that is yet. But that allows us to unbundle some of these components and to repurpose them in unique ways and unique and compelling ways to help us provide extra skills to students to help them create that professional learning profile that they need to do. So they might be doing a course in biology or physics or something like that, but there are a number of other skills they might want to put around that to actually make themselves more employable as they move forward. And that's where micro-credentialing really comes to the fore. It's how they augment the main program with other skills that would be seen as beneficial to the sector. And so as we align this with blockchain technologies and the cryptocurrency technologies, Bob's your uncle. All of a sudden we have a way in which these can be validated across the globe. And that's a really important aspect as higher education is becoming more global all the time and as our qualifications are becoming more transportable. We've learned a lot from MOOCs over the last few years, or over the last 5, 6, 7 years even. That's played a really important role in the way we think about online learning and the way in which we can credentialise and the way in which we can break up online learning. Importantly though, the decisions we make are based on data, not just our gut feelings. We all have gut feelings and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're not so right. But if we can back those gut feelings up with the data, and that's becoming more and more important as we start to work in our educational and learning analytics. It allows us to create more learning pathways, adaptive learning pathways for our students to help them find new ways they might not have thought of within our university programs that will actually help them get to where they want to go as they set their goals and as we move forward with them through these adaptive learning pathways. Some of that at the lower level is then based in the LMS through things like conditional activities so that students can work through conditions of learning. Importantly, from the academic perspective though, I'll own this myself, I'm a legend in my own lunchbox. Not. But I do know some good stuff. And I've seen a lot of things over the years. I've been in higher education now for 28 years, and I've seen the growth, the trajectory of higher education. And so there is some fundamental knowledges we carry because we've done the hard yards and done the formal study. And so it allows us to become what I like to think of thought catalyzers and thought syndicators. So we don't always have to have, and we've learnt this because we write a lot and we write journal articles and things like that, and we're always citing other people's bits of knowledge to build up our own understanding. We can actually take those bits of knowledge, same way as we micro-credential a course, we can take those bits of knowledge and we can start to syndicate those bits of knowledge, not just through journal articles, but through Twitter, through LinkedIn, through other social media elements that help to build our profiles as academics and as professional staff. So we are actually seen as adding value, not just to ourselves, but to the sector more generally, particularly as we move into this notion of more open education resources and things like that. It's not about keeping the knowledge in, it's about sharing the knowledge for the greater good. One of the things that's really growing very fast through this whole sharing notion is and how we're aligning that with work integrated learning. And particularly as we start to partner more with industries. So it's not about us, it's not what the industries can do for us, it's what we can do for them. How are we going to provide them with what they need? They want to tell us that. We think we know it all and we know what we want to tell them, and so we're going to provide them with what they need. But it's so different now than what even it was 10 years ago. Industries have got so many nuanced activities happening We need to be sensitive to those. And we need to, this is another aspect of where micro-credentialing really comes to the fore. We can start to respond to those smaller, nuanced pieces that students might need to have within their programs. And so we're working with industries to make this happen. So how are we going to make this work for our students? That's the challenge, and that's what we're going to be looking at as we move forward into our planning day on Monday. Thank you.